Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. You're listening to the Mariam Kondo Show on Salam Media. And peace be upon you on this Tuesday, the 1st of December 2020. So the Me Too campaign has encouraged victims of rape to tell their stories and to break the silence. And we've seen sports stars, we've seen celebrities, and a lot of famous people just taking a step down because of this campaign and how it has helped victims to take back their power and to break the silence by sharing of their stories. Um, we are also now in the 16 days of activism of no violence against children. It's a global initiative and it was launched last week on the 25th of November. But, when we see and hear of campaigns like this, yeah, I don't think they do justice. I don't think that they do anything to help women and children who are affected by violence. And I don't think they are doing anything to support the victims as well. But anyway, hopefully we can get a professional to give us their insights on what do they think about the 16 Days of Activism campaign. And what do you guys think as well? Is it doing justice? You can leave your comments in the comment section below, or you can send them to us on WhatsApp number 0617660355. Moving on, my guest for today is a lawyer, a human rights activist, as well as a survivor of sexual assault, Fatima Phiri, and she's going to be sharing her story with us and hopefully breaking the silence. Assalamu alaikum, Fatima.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, all well, and yourself?
I'm good, thanks. Good, thanks.
All right, so shukran for joining me. So, first of all, why did you choose to talk about your story, to share your story with the world and let everyone know what happened to you?
I think, like I've stated before, this my incident actually happened 9 years ago. So it's not like it's a recent occurrence. But the reason why I actually began to speak about it, especially in the Muslim community, it's not something that is actually spoken about. So I felt that it's something that needs to now be spoken about because it's something that keeps occurring, especially in South Africa. And it's something that needs to be spoken about. So my story, I think it helps others in enabling them to actually then speak out also about it. So that's the reason why.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, do you mind telling us about the story? Like, what happened on that day 9 years ago?
Okay, so I was actually a student back at the University of Pretoria. This was back in 2011. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It wasn't like, my incident happened in the dark or it happened with a
Mm.
stranger. It actually happened with someone that I knew, someone that I trusted. I don't think I would want to go in depth about it because I don't want to trigger, the audience that may be watching. But like I'm saying, it's just somebody that I knew, somebody that I trusted, and it happened in my home at the time. It's not something that I expected, like I'm saying, because
Mm.
it was somebody that I knew and somebody that I trusted. After the incident, after it occurred, because it was in my home, I think it took me some time, if not years, for me to actually get to a point where I then came to the realization that it was actually rape. Because, like I'm
Mm.
saying, I'm Muslim, and as Muslims, we are told not to have sex before marriage and what have you. So, at first, I had, thought that, hey, I might have had sex. This wasn't rape, it was sex. And then after that, it took some time because of the way that the incident occurred. And like I said, I would not want to go into depth with it because I don't want to trigger people at this moment in time. And yeah, that is basically what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Would you?
A video that you shared, you are asking yourself questions like, what was wrong with you, or was it something that you said? Was it something that you wore? Uh, how, what was going through your mind?
I think at the time when the rape occurred, when the incident was actually happening in the present moment, I was
Mm-hmm.
not thinking of many things. I think it only, like I said, it took days after. What I was thinking was, did I maybe initiate it? Did I maybe, hint to this guy that I was interested in him? However, like I said, it was somebody that I trusted and somebody that I thought that was a close friend. So it just, I had to go back and forth with myself to be like, what was it that actually led me to that moment in time.
Mm-hmm. And how did it affect you, especially mentally?
Mentally, like I'm saying, it took me years to get where I'm at. So
Mm-hmm.
mentally, at first I didn't actually, I blocked it out of my mind for, I think, for a good 5 years. So I repressed it, and that was basically it. But it contributed to my mental health and my depression. I'm formally diagnosed with depression, and it's one of the incidents that actually what's it called, contributed to my depression. There were times where I was afraid to even go out and make friends. I was afraid to be around my male counterparts. I was afraid just to be out in the street because I was just like, um, anything could happen. I could invite someone to my house, and again, something like this could happen. So that's how it affected me mentally. It had me overthinking, it had me anxious, it had me in all sorts of a mess, if I may say.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned as well, that this was somebody that you knew, somebody that you trusted. So
Yes.
many women are victims of sexual assault, sexual abuse, sexual violence from someone whom they know, someone whom they trust, someone who is living in their homes at the moment. It can be a family friend, it can be a parent as well, it can be a sibling, it can be a cousin, an uncle. Anyone can be a perpetrator, which is very unfortunate because this is something that can happen to anyone. You don't have to be. Um, there's this huge misconception about Muslims that no, because we are covered, then you won't get
Mm-hmm.
raped. This and that won't happen to you, and it only happens to certain people, and it's a huge misconception because most of the rapes it actually is inside the home, is with people that you know, and it has absolutely nothing to do with outsiders, dark alleys, corners, late at night, and a whole lot of other misconceptions that are out there. And how long did it take for you to get professional help? And when did you decide that you need to see a professional to get you out of this situation that you were in?
It took me, I actually got proper professional help, I can say, in 2014. So my incident happened in 2011. The
Hmm.
reason why I actually even got professional help was that, like mentioned before, I was at the University of Pretoria. I had dropped out because of this incident because I had been failing, and my course was just, going down the drain dismally. So I took a gap year in 2013. I then re-registered for a whole new course. That's the reason why I'm a lawyer at this present moment in time. So in 2014, I had to go back to varsity life. And when I got to
Hmm.
back to varsity life, I was back in that, in that circumstance, in that situation where I was afraid that this could happen to me again. So I had told myself that, what, I don't want to live in fear anymore. So that's when I took it upon myself to go to the university psychologist. And that's when, I started going through therapy. And that's only in 2014, 2015, where I got to terms to tell myself that, I was actually raped. That was it. So it was in 2014, 2015.
Hmm. And your family, were you able to tell them about what had happened to you?
Oh, shoot, that's a very heavy topic in itself. Like I'm saying, because again, coming from a Muslim family, a Muslim community, it's not something that you discuss.
Yeah.
And yes, I did mention it to them, but it was something that you just shove it under the rug, because in the Muslim community, I mean, if you have to say, and it's a lot of times that I always bring this up, that when women speak out about being sexually abused or being raped, then you become, as in the community, they call us like damaged goods. So
Yeah.
my family, as much as yes, I told them, there was not a proper support system. So that's also a reasoning why, as in, I blocked it out for as long as I did, because there was not a proper support system to help me through that time.
And because this happened 9 years ago, did you ever report it?
No, I actually did not.
Mm,
And I have many questions where, because I assist, many rape victims and people who have been sexually abused. I always
mhm.
get that question, as in, as a rape survivor, why haven't you reported it? And I always say that, um, just because you've been raped doesn't mean that you need to report it now. I could, I'm still not ready. As much as, yes, it's 9 years ago, I'm comfortable now in speaking about it. I'm still not ready, as in, the consequences that would come of it, the consequences for him, as much as I don't care about him, but for myself, that is a lot that I think that I cannot deal with right now. So I still do have some time. Um, and if I feel that I would want to report it, I would. But at this moment in time, I just want to get myself to a stage where I'm healthy and I'm able to be back to the person that I formerly was.
hmm And you just mentioned that you do not care about the perpetrator. Did you see him again after maybe a few years later after the ordeal?
I actually saw him, I think, 2 years ago. He actually even reached out last year, and he had literally written me an entire email, because he has a sister. And that's the thing with the men, when you have sisters and mothers and girlfriends and whatever. I think that's only when they come to the realization that these people in their life could be victims of sexual abuse and rape. So I think maybe something actually happened to his sister, and it took him back to what he did to me. He didn't formally say, "Hey, I'm sorry that I abused you in 1, 2, 3, and I took advantage of 1, 2, 3." It's very indirect, but he sort of apologized in a few words. But like I said, I didn't care. It has nothing to do with him. Yes, he took so much from me, but I don't have the energy for that right now. So yeah,
Mhm. And do you forgive him?
I don't forgive him. I think I forgive myself more than anything. I forgive myself for having put myself through that, and not dealing with it in that time. But I don't forgive him. I really, I just forgive the situation. But him personally, no, I don't forgive him at all.
And forgiveness is for yourself. It's not
Self,
for the other
yes,
person.
yes,
It's for
yes,
you to free
yes.
yourself from those chains that were holding you back so that you can finally move on. Now, what do you think about campaigns such as the 16 Days of Activism? I mean, you are a human rights activist as well as a lawyer. What do you think about such campaigns?
I can be very, in between about it. It has the aspect of actually bringing out about awareness, but also it can also be a very sensational and a very capitalistic, sort of a thing, where we only think about women and children for 16 days. What about the
Yeah.
days before, and what about the days after? And then everybody within these 16 days just wants to act prim and proper. We'd have men who'd stand up against us, especially like also it ties in with like Women's Day. So yes, I would say yes, it does bring up awareness. And during this time, I feel as women, I don't care so much about the men right now. As women during these 16 days, we should speak up about certain things. We should be out there. We should be empowering each other. That's what I every campaign that comes out, I always say that we must use it as an opportunity as women. As much as, yes, it can be sensationalized and it can take away from the true aspect of what the meaning is, but we should capitalize as well as women during this time to bring out awareness. So yeah, that's basically what I think of it. Yes.
And support as well, because we
Yes.
need a lot of support for the victims. Victims do not know where to go. Victims do not know how they can go about getting the support that they need, the channels, the processes. There is a lot, and it's more difficult when it comes to minors and children. How
Mm-hmm.
do they get the support? Because they don't even know
Mm-hmm.
what has just happened to them. They have been violated, and part of their innocence has been taken away from them, and they must now continue with their lives, yet they could be getting support or assistance from professional help or support or assistance. Now, if you have any information on where women can get support or assistance, can you please share it with us?
Um, Women can get support from, there is an organization called Soul City Organization. You could look it up online. There are, if you Google, you can Google, there are certain national hotlines. I'm so sorry that I actually didn't write these things down. So there are national hotlines for gender-based violence. You can find them on your Twitter, you can find them on your Facebook, you can find them on your Instagram. As much as, yes, the we have some people don't trust the justice system and what have you, you can go to your nearest police stations. At police stations, they're supposed to have all the local facilities or communities that could actually assist you in your communities. If you're a varsity student, you can go to your what do you have, your psychologists on your campus. They can assist you, they can give you the different lines and the different women shelters and children's shelters that you could contact. In your community, go to your local community police station, or even schools. There are certain places where you can get certain hotlines that could assist you. We have lawyers for abuse. Lawyers for abuse are in different regions in South Africa. In your Gauteng, they are in Diepsloot. I think that was the focus, or the main house. So they're in different areas. Like I say, for lawyers for abuse, you can find them on social media, on your Facebook, on your Twitter, on your Instagram. Yes, and that's about it. And also, if one thing that I'd like to say, especially for somebody who hasn't reported any abuse that they have suffered, they could tell a friend, and a friend could then assist you. Or you can tell, it need not be an elder as well. If you just tell a friend can tell somebody else, and from there, that's how you can get the assistance.
Mhm. That's so true. Well, breaking the silence is never an easy thing to do. If you've gone through such an ordeal, it is never an easy thing to speak about. Where do you even start? You know, all that's going through your mind right now is, did this even happen? And
Hmm.
why did it happen to me? Why did you start blaming yourself for everything that is currently
Yeah.
happening in your life? And you don't even know what to do with yourself anymore. But yeah, hopefully things get better for you, as well as any other listeners or viewers who might have gone through the same experience. Speak to someone, for our listeners, speak to someone, go and get the necessary help that you can get. But do not die in silence, because there is help out there. Fatima, shukran so much for your time and for sharing your story with us. And hopefully it has helped some of our viewers and listeners.
Okay, Jazakallah so much. And just lastly, like I said, I didn't relate my entire story because I would not
Yeah.
want to trigger the people online. However, if anybody would or want to go and watch my story, they can find it on my Instagram page, or they can find it on my Twitter page. My Twitter is Fatima_Phiri, and it pops up as my pinned tweet. And then you can see the full story there. I hope this has assisted someone,
Mhm.
as in the sense that you can speak out about this. It need not be to a crowd. It can just be one person, and that one person you can find assistance in. So, Jazakallah so much for your time.
Barakallahu feek, and have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.
You too, Islamika.
Salam. That was Fatima Phiri, a sexual assault survivor, as well as human rights activist and lawyer, sharing her story with us and breaking the silence of sexual abuse and rape. This is something that can happen to absolutely anyone, and a majority of the women and children experience sexual assault and sexual violence and rape in their own homes. This can come from somebody you trust, somebody you know. It does not have to be outside of the home. It does not have to be in a dark alley somewhere, the misconceptions that we have been fed throughout our times, thinking that if we look a certain way, then we are going to be we're going to be putting ourselves in a vulnerable situation. And that is really not the case. It can happen to anyone. What about the 6-month-old child who has been raped? Did they put themselves in a vulnerable situation? No. What about the old lady? Did she? No. It can happen to any one of us, but we just pray, we make dua that we are not victims